This is a serious message to everybody watching my update right now. Peace and love. Peace and love. I want to tell you, please, after the 20th of October, do not send fan mail to any address that you have. Nothing will be signed after the 20th of October. And if that has a date on the envelope, it's going to be tossed. I'm warning you with peace and love. Peace and love. I have too much to do, so no more fan mail. Thank you. Thank you. No objects to be signed, nothing. Anyway, peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love. Welcome to Marvel Movie Talk. As always, I am Christian Bladt. So excited that today was October the 20th, that when you have your own show, you can be like, oh, yeah, everybody's just going to have to humor me. As always, I am Christian Bladt, also not signing autographs after today. Myself, Michael Shirley. Today's the last day you're signing autographs. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you being here. And of course, Mr. Minutes to his Miss Minutes. And we'll talk a little bit about what I have here. Our pal, Eric Connor. Have you ever been asked to sign an autograph, Eric?
I've asked to be signed things that were handed to me by a police officer. Does that count?
It's basically the same thing. David Brody, I don't want you to ever stop signing autographs, but we appreciate you being back here with us.
I signed a breast once after an event.
And thank you again for doing that for me, David.
It was my pleasure. I don't judge.
And if you see Nate Miller, just ask for a selfie. Don't ask him to sign anything. What's the point? You know, I mean,
my parents probably have the only autographs from me.
The only autographs from you. Your audio is a little low. I will mention, Nate. So, but we appreciate everybody being here. We appreciate everyone in the live chat, and we appreciate everyone who humored my antics at the end. Now, there's of course something to keep in mind that's very important. That Radish Diff in the chat wants to make sure that we get done in an hour so that he can catch up on Point Dabble Point, which is part of a whole other universe that I also dabble in. But we're good for now, so we will do our best to accommodate the Radish Diff in the chat. So I want to talk about this episode, of course, and we'll reset sort of our game that Mr. Brody came up with for last week, but I have to initially give credit to my pal, Count Eric Connor, who, prior to today's show, about a little bit less than an hour ago, he rolled by my palatial estates, and he came bearing gifts. Now, what inspired you to be so generous, Mr. Connor?
Well, on previous episodes, I did say a certain item was going to become my white whale, to my, of course, Ahab and Ishmael. Well, it's been a while since I've read Moby Dick. Regardless, that was, of course, the Loki sauce. And the amazing thing of eBay is you can find all the Loki sauce you need. And I'm not a selfish man. Nate,
No.
I'm happy to give you some. Mr. Brody, I think you're on the other coast.
Yeah.
But there is a
Besides,
thing called
I
the
know
mail.
it's from 1983, so I'm not going near it.
Well, that's true.
No, right.
It's been sitting at the McDonald's that Sylvie works in. You're 100% right.
It's from a Loki that was going to be on the Incredible Hulk TV show that they opted not to use. So all the tie-ins got put in this deep storage. But I'm very excited, and Christian also, and because this was an episode without McDonald's, what better timing to then do Loki sauce challenge?
Well, I mean, you had seen the episode, so you knew McDonald's wasn't in it.
I'd already ordered it, though.
Oh no, not for the Loki sauce. I mean, you did more than just provide Loki sauce, but I appreciate the commitment to the bit. I appreciate you basically acting as DoorDash for this morning prior to the show. I mean, you know what I have? I have no notes. I have no complaints, no anything. At no time are you going to hear me say anything negative. And in fact, I do even have the proof that this was less than an hour ago, that Eric and I were in the same place. And you can see some of the things that Eric provided me with. And we're going to try a little test and see how we do with, yes, Loki sauce, while we are on the air. And it's been a minute since I've had chicken McNuggets, but
A miss minute.
trying. Yeah, it's been a miss minute. Thank you. And I was just like, oh, okay, great. This is an apple pie. What is this actually, Eric?
That is actually a pumpkin and cream pie.
So
Most wonderful
It
time
should
of
have
the
been
year.
key lime pie.
well, if only
Yeah.
they had that.
I as much as I love key lime pie, a McDonald's key lime pie might be my last day on this planet.
Okay, but you're
do you
eating
think-
something called Loki's sauce. That doesn't.
Yes, he's
Don't make
eating
me
Loki's
too much
sauce
about what
after
I'm-
giving
what
me
am
a
I cutting?
cream pie. I feel like this is a very suggestive conversation that maybe the
You're
audience
embarrassing,
wasn't
Michael.
expecting.
Cut it out, everyone.
Yeah, that's true. Michael has very sensitive ears. In any case, so I'll let everybody know. Now, Eric, have you tried the Loki sauce? Because I
No, I
intentionally
haven't.
waited.
I thought we
Okay.
would do it together.
We would do it together.
So
Let's actually
weird.
start talking about
Not
the
at all.
show.
Not at
We'll
all.
talk
This-
about the show
Michael,
first.
enjoy it. Enjoy every
Now,
moment of this.
Mr. Brody, as our distinguished guest and the one who came up with a great bit for all of us for this week, do you want to remind our audience what we're trying to learn about our pal Michael Shirley this week?
Yeah, so Michael is not a fan of the Loki series.
Fair.
And we came to
Yeah.
an agreement last week that he liked that it ended.
Yep.
And he was able to find one thing he liked, which I don't recall what it was. Mike, do you remember what the one thing it was
Do
you
you
liked?
remember what it was last week, Michael, or did you put that out of your brain?
It was nothing, I thought.
No, I think it was the
So
key
that
lime
was
pie,
what I
wasn't
was-
it?
I don't
I
know.
believe it was the pie. Yeah.
It was something innocuous that wasn't plot
Yeah.
related. And
Even
so I
if it
thought it'd
wasn't
be-
the pie, it was something on that level.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be fun to try to figure out, and we challenged Michael to come up with one thing he liked for us to guess what the one thing was he would like from the episode and see if any of us came close.
Yeah.
So we're playing what did Mikey like?
And I hope let's just find out first before we actually play the game. Michael, is the answer nothing, or did you find something you're like, okay,
Yeah.
there is one thing? Because if the answer is nothing, it takes a little of the fun out of it.
There was a moment I
Okay.
kind of was like,
Okay.
Okay. Oh, he hung. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, did you have a
so-
recording of that moment, Michael?
no.
No reaction video.
Yeah,
Whoa.
I love when people film reaction videos. Michael's would be, what is it, like 52 minutes of him watching this, and just like at some point he goes, huh, and the rest of it is just him staring straight ahead with his eyes glazed over.
Maybe we should rename the game. What did Michael?
Yeah, well, things that make you go, I mean, I think that bit might have been done, but that's all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess first. We'll go round and then we'll dive into the proper recap after we play our fun game. I want to say it's when and we'll all guess and we'll let Michael decide if any of us were right. Realizing, Eric, that we really need a talking potato to help us with this game, but we'll do it ourselves. I would say it would be when Renslayer got pushed into the rowboat and sent packing because Michael wished that was him. What do you say, Eric Connor?
There was a hair flip, and it made me think of Michael, but I don't think the hair flip would make Michael go,
No.
He hates that.
Yeah.
I think when now's your time, Miss Minutes. Okay. And she got all big and even donned the sort of Pac-Man-esque train, we'll call it, for the ghost. I thought that might have done something for Michael.
Okay.
All right. I think that is a fun moment. I don't know that it spoke to Mr. Shirley. But David, what do you think it might be?
Well, initially I thought it might be the weather vane, which was the first thing we see in the episode. So he could get it out of the way. Like, the weather vane's fine and be done.
It's actually really smart. Keep that in mind for future episodes, Michael.
Then I thought when Miss Minutes became a snappy bitch and became the mannequin, I thought he would like her her oomph, right? Her
Snappy bitch.
So
Snappy
we've got 2 instances of Miss Minutes showing.
But I
some
settled.
sass. Oh, okay,
Sorry. I settled on Michael would like the part where Loki said the popcorn tasted like ass.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it's
so that's what I'm going with.
And by the way, Loki would know. Loki would absolutely know what ass.
And you guys are going to know shortly as you eat Loki's sauce. So
I can't. I should really look at how they made this. Now that we're making
no. Let the mystery be, friend.
Nate, are you able to distill any of the happenings from Loki episode 3 and figure, okay, this must be what Michael enjoyed?
I think I was gonna go with the Miss Minutes getting all horned up over Victor Timely. I figured that would probably be. That was just such a stark left turn that I was like, this has to at least even Michael has to be caught off guard and go, what?
Yeah, that was sick. She's a sick bitch.
Oh, don't give anything away yet.
Okay. All right. So we have our votes. We cast a public ballot. And this is easier to do than nominate a Speaker of the House. So, Michael Shirley, what was the moment that made you go, eh?
Nate was kind of close.
Okay.
That made me go, ugh. That was like what I like hated the most, which is
That's not the
kind of
game.
close to what
That's
I like.
Sure, that is not the game. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. My favorite part was when she told Miss Minutes to blend in, and so she grayscales herself.
Damn it!
That was actually a great idea.
And I laughed out loud at that.
Yeah, I agree.
I think with Loki in my mouth.
Wait, what do you got there on your phone?
Can you read that at all?
Not really. No. The
If
light's
you look
messing everything up, Brody.
The top line says, when Miss Minutes turned to black and white. And I didn't go with it.
You didn't go with it. You were this close.
I was close. But he likes
you know how it works. A potato wins again. So, Michael, you're able to feel as though that was one of those moments, and we have Miss Minutes. She is getting all horned up. I agree with that assessment. I mean, she's really, we didn't see her in this series and this season. I mean, we're finally getting her, and man, she's back with a vengeance. Are you able to appreciate Miss Minutes in this episode? We're going to start with Miss Minutes, Michael, and then everybody else can weigh in.
I hate her. Like, hate her.
Yeah.
She's really annoying. I kind of like felt that like slow romance, the slow burn of it, but I never, ever, ever thought it was going to go that far.
No. I mean, she's a talking cartoon clock. And I mean, definitely, she's definitely like TVA blocking Renslayer. They had like a thing going,
clock blocking, you might say.
Thank you. She's definitely clock blocking. Thank you. That's why David Brody's here. That's why we brought a professional in. So all right. I found this to be an interesting turn for the character of Miss Minutes, who remember when the first season started, except for Michael, we were supposed to like her and people were kind of fascinated by her.
Her accent, she reminds me of Towley. Like, I just can't.
Hey, you want to go get high?
Yeah.
Towley, you're the worst character ever. I know. Yeah, I love Towley, and don't think I'm not going to bring up an image of Towley while I let Eric. Have you wiped the Loki out of your mouth, or should I go on to Brody?
I don't know if I ever could. I think it's the half-life of a Loki sauce is a good 27 years. So.
Yeah, because I'm not going to eat all these, and we'll open it in Loki.
Are these from
10.
season 1?
No.
I don't think.
I don't know.
You know what? That's a great question. Is this from Loki's first Marvel appearance in 1963? Hold on a second.
These are questions I probably should have asked.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you definitely should have asked. All right, so let's talk about Miss Minutes. We'll sort of go through some of the more interesting character stuff that happened in this episode. I found this episode to be good. I thought it had a lot of stuff that happened in it. Go ahead, Mr. Conner.
I was weirdly enough, I was not necessarily bothered by Minutes all of a sudden getting a little flirty, because we've had this before, like AI falling in love with someone, robots falling in love. Like there is a weird sort of history of this within sci-fi. It's just, of course, because Miss Minutes looks like this, that's a little strange. Although I did like when she went from black and white back to color in a flirtatious way. I'm like, that is truly weird. And I think this is the thing about the show that I just enjoy week in, week out, is it's not afraid to just go really weird in a way that I don't know if I can't really think of a comic book moment that would have been like Miss Minutes flirting. But that's what I enjoyed so much about it too, was like, well, that's a strange choice, but I'm kind of with it. I don't think they're going to get much mileage out of it. At least I hope they don't, because I think it was like a throwaway beat, but I'm a little concerned that maybe this does become almost like Miss Minutes' weird, obsession with Kang that turns into all sorts of chaos. But I think as long as they don't go too far with it, I didn't bump on the moment, and I thought it was just so unexpected. So much of a case of writers being not only like 20 steps ahead of us, but 20 steps ahead and to the left and to the right and all over the place, which is probably the strength. And then maybe when we get into it, the weakness of the storytelling too.
Yeah, I definitely find it to be weird, and if it is like a blip in the storytelling, I think that might make it more fun. And then we move on in episode 4, and we never speak of it again. Your thoughts, Mr. Brody?
Well, I mean, her being horny, I'm not attracted to her, but she does have a nice face. So.
That's true, and yes, she's no Tally.
Her body's not much to talk about.
No,
you know what? I thought the problem with that scene is that you're blaming Kang, who isn't Kang yet, for the mistakes he hasn't made yet. And I thought if she's an entity as smart as she claims to be, I would have done I mean, I know they did it for the plot and for us, the viewer, but in reality, what she should have done was said, "I'm so sad you died right before you were going to give me a body, because you wanted to be lovers, but I couldn't. And, you died right before you had found a way to make me a body. This way he spends the rest of his life trying to get her a body." It's like, oh, like substitute teacher. You tell the substitute teacher, "Oh yeah, we weren't getting homework today. This was a play day." "Oh, it was? Okay, go play." And instead she blames him for something he's not responsible for.
Yeah.
And it was weird in the context of it didn't make sense, although it made sense for the plot turn that, but that otherwise I thought it didn't make sense.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about Victor Timely. Sort of, it poses some very interesting questions about Kang, He Who Remains, and the whole legion of them. But let's stay on Miss Minutes for a minute. And Nate, how do you feel we've dealt with Miss Minutes throughout the course of season 1, and now? There's definitely at some point, I guess there was a bit of the proverbial heel turn for Miss Minutes last season, and now getting to see her. I mean, she's just she just wants to be her. She's got all kinds of ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really interesting premise for a character. This idea that Kang, this being that kind of exists outside of time and has always, especially in the comics, there's always been kind of relation to loneliness with him. And so to me, it makes a lot of sense for him to create this AI for him to play chess with and, conversate with. And over the course of, who knows how many years in the time it takes Kang to enact all of his plans, she develops into like a sentient being, essentially. And I think especially knowing, at least given what she said, knowing that she really only had a connection with him and developed a connection with him, it kind of makes sense that like she would be infatuated with him, especially when you add the separation of her not having a physical body and him having one. And I thought that was really interesting. I did kind of get whiplash with the episode, like starting with Miss Minutes and Ravonna like working together, and then in the middle they like have a tiff over Kang, and then now at the end they're back like together again. Like it was just kind of like, whoa. But I don't know. I thought it was like I really like how they're getting into Kang and developing the different variants and showing how they're different, but also how like Kang in the future has had influence on the past, which then influences the future, and it gets in all the circular timey stuff. But I think especially with, it just makes a lot of sense when you look at Miss Minutes, and she's a clock. She's like literally a personified clock who is like running the TVA, who is basically in control of time, and like she's his partner. So she's time is his partner. Like there's a lot of metaphors and images that really come together really well. So I'm kind of curious to see how they wrap it up. I did not expect her to kind of like try to get Rona on her side, I guess, in the end. I'm curious what she's going to reveal to her, but I'm glad that she's more than just a Mimi little like, oh, look at the cute little thing in the show, and she talks and she little glows and she does stuff, but it's kind of mysterious. And now there's much more. There's like a whole character. There's a whole arc for her of like wanting to become real and like to be cared about in the way that she cares about this other person.
Yeah, deep down inside, every inanimate object really is Pinocchio. It all wants to be a real boy, and I think it is interesting to think about. I referenced the fact that when she was introduced to us, you kind of thought that it's almost like she was like an introduction video or like, a virtual kiosk of like, let me help you find where you need to go your first day here at the TVA. But there's so much more to her. Let's talk about Victor Timely. So this is the episode where we get to see the end credit stuff that we got in Quantumania. So it was scenes from this episode. So we knew it was coming. We knew that they would end up in this sort of part of the time frame. My first question for everyone, it is the first time we've seen Jonathan Majors since Quantumania, and there obviously have been some headlines and allegations about the actor, and we touch on that because Marvel/Disney sometimes have made reactions to things that are out there in the public. He's still there, and I think he's a tremendous actor. You can't take away from that. Obviously some very serious allegations about him. Does anyone, when they saw him again, did anyone think about it? Because I admit that I thought about it later. I didn't think about it right the first time he was on the screen. And then I was like, oh yeah, wasn't there like a little bit of like some talk about, is this guy going to get canceled? What's going on with him? But here he was in the show. And I'm not going to go around and does anybody speak up if you thought about like, oh yeah, there's weird stuff in the news about this guy. Did anybody?
Me too.
Yeah, it's definitely right. Exactly. Definitely that. But I don't know. I mean, for me, I was just like, oh yeah, I figure that Disney is just, at least for now, they're going full steam ahead with having him, and I thought he was great. I thought that seeing this version of Victor Timely, sort of it's weird because it's he's very timid. He almost has a stutter, and it's. Obviously, this is before any of it. That's why they're at this moment in time. We see the TVA handbook get tossed in his window as a kid. So there's already, something going on. But from when we saw the end credits in Quantumania, I also wasn't sure, like, okay, is this a variant of this character where he's putting on a show back in the 1900s, but he's actually fully aware of being Kang and like what's to come. And maybe, he's just, visiting an earlier time. But I think we're really getting him at the beginning of his timeline. I think that they went out of their way to show us that. Obviously, there could be a reveal otherwise. Do you, and so I want to ask everybody, we'll talk about Victor Timely in general, but that's the starting point. Do you think, Michael, this really is him before he's done any Kangin, before he's done any immortising, before he's done any Ramatutting, before he's done any of that stuff, Michael?
No, I think it's just a variant of him.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping to see like Monique come in and be his like female variant.
I would have no complaints about that,
Like Sylvie. We get like Monique instead.
I'd love to see Monique on the show. Yeah. So I was not expecting that shout out, but I appreciate it.
Weirdly, I was.
Yeah. That's actually on your bingo card. So
the worst part is I really could see it too with like the makeup and like her just like going off, like doing the bad guy thing. Like that could actually really work.
Yeah, but the networks will probably cast Queen Latifah. You know how it works.
Wow. I mean, she's the equalizer. She's busy. She's busy.
But she gets a lot of roles. I'd like to see Monique. I am with that.
All right.
The letter campaign starts here.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying, Eric?
No, I was just saying. I think we do a letter writing campaign now. The way they got Weezer to do "Africa" by Toto, I think we make this happen.
Oh, you were responsible for that.
Yeah, no, it was
you
Christian.
blessed the reins.
You mean their note for note recreation that sounds exactly like the original song?
Their karaoke album, yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, I was going to share a picture of Monique, and then a pop-up ad got in the way. So I tried. Let's put it this way: I tried. Okay, that's really all I'm going to say.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah, it's I don't even know what these ads are, but yeah. So that's an interesting point. I mean, look, this idea that we'll talk about Victor Timely in general, but this idea that Sylvie kind of pops back in to kill him because she wants to kill all of them, and nobody wants to hurt Monique. There she is, and I'll leave her up for a while so people will be like, "Wait, why is she up there? Wait a minute, she should be a Kang." But in any case, it definitely brings to a more philosophical question than maybe we usually get to on the show, because it becomes the time travel question of, do you go back in time and kill baby Hitler? Because you know what's going to happen in the future. So the potential of what this guy is. And I was surprised that Sylvie was able to be talked out of he is a variant. He is a version of Kang. It's like they all become Kang eventually. And then, so I'm very surprised actually that, and honestly, I feel like it was a little inconsistent with the way we've been given the character. I think McDonald's has made her soft. Go ahead. I'll let you jump in, David.
Don't forget, Christian, she's a variant who was punished her whole life for being a variant. And there was a flashback to her as a kid, which is the girl from The Walking Dead, who plays Judith. I think she related to him saying, I'm a variant who can make my own choices and decisions. And my life is not pre-planned. And last week, Sylvie said the future, it hasn't been written anymore. She made it a point to say, I changed the future by killing he who remains. Now, not everything is written. And I think to stay consistent, she realizes it's not guaranteed he's going to be Kang the Conqueror, or for that matter, he who remains, that he may not grow up to destroy timelines, because at this point, he may not be Kang. When they went to 1838, whatever it was, the original one, it said Sacred Timeline. But when they went to Chicago in 1893, it said Branch Timeline. So we don't know if that's a branch off the original Kang. If Kang was from we don't know. So I think she thinks there's hope for this guy, and I may be killing an innocent man. Although I feel like she would have killed an innocent man just because it could have been Hitler. You might. So
right, exactly.
There's some justification for what she did, but it did throw me that she didn't kill her or Renslayer because of plot armor, I guess.
Well, yeah, I guess it comes into that. Our pal Daniel Drew, sort of what David's talking about. When Renslayer got to 1968, it was the sacred timeline. 1868. It was a sacred timeline, but the moment she left the book, it became a branch timeline, because when Loki and Mobius arrived, it was labeled a branch in 1893. That is a kind of an interesting way to look at it. Eric, let me circle back to you with this idea of Victor Timely and sort of Sylvie being faced with this idea of like, well, I said I was going to kill all of them, and this is one of them, but then ultimately not doing that.
This version of of Kang is fascinating, because you do spend the whole time like, is this a put on? Like, is he play acting this whole time? Like, half of me was waiting for him to sort of drop the stutter, because he's already been established in this role as like a flim flam man, snake oil salesman basically. And so it would have been very much within that character to then drop this sort of shtick, and all of a sudden it turns out, oh no, he's Kaiser Sozang us. He's totally this badass. One maybe issue I had with the storytelling here, though, was that sorry, Christian, what was you saying something?
Well, he said David said spoiler when you said Kaiser Soze. So people still haven't seen that movie yet. Yeah.
If you haven't seen certain films from 30 years ago, my sympathy is a little thin. I'm sorry.
You have kids in your house. You understand,
Yeah, not right now.
That's great point. Anyway, finish your thought. I'm sorry.
They paid the ransom.
So I think like this idea of like, I've got to kill them all. No, you don't. Yes, I do. No, you don't. One concern I'm having is I feel like we're starting to go around that same lap, which I know is the point, but I think dramatically at times it starts to deflate a little bit because we've seen this argument played out multiple times. Even the way Mobius was with Renslayer, I was a little confused because I don't know, they seemed very congenial considering like they were trying to kill each other not that long ago. And I know he name checks it, but it was a little strange. I was like, at one point I'm like, was Renslayer, is this a variant? It's like, no, that's actually Renslayer. But it seems like maybe the drama from like previous season didn't quite get represented enough when they when they were reunited. So I do like this notion of like, well, what if this Kang Timely is just an innocent, truly, and I think that gives us a lot of potential good drama, but it's starting to also feel a little familiar.
Right. No, and I mean, it asks a variation on the do you go back in time and kill baby Hitler? It's like, but this is, if it's a variant of baby Hitler in a timeline where he becomes a painter and Fidel Castro becomes a pitcher for the Yankees, and all these dreams that people have.
That makes sense.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that it would happen in the same timeline. It absolutely makes sense.
No, that he played for the Yankees.
Well, I'm sorry, I missed that one. But his brother would have been there too. In any case, I think that it does ask questions, and I guess it's a little deeper. And I guess there's more to Sylvie than I thought. I thought she was just there to, she jumped through that door ready to stab, and she was stabbing somebody. As we talk about all this, Nate, what are your thoughts sort of on, getting to see Victor Timely? He clearly, I mean, unless it's like a really big reveal in a future episode, it really seems like he's not Kang, and maybe he will never be Kang. Maybe he's going to be the good one out of all of them, and maybe not killing him is a good idea. I feel like it's going to be a mistake. But what do you think, Nate?
I have a couple theories. First, I want to say that I think it's extremely consistent with Sylvie's character for her not to kill him, because she, in the first episode and in the second episode, or no, I'm sorry, not in the first episode, in the second episode, she has that discussion with him twice about like, is it free will or is it predetermination? So if she concedes that he's always going to be Kang and she has to kill him, then she would be conceding to the idea of predetermination. So in order for her to stay consistent, she has to give him the free will chance to change. I don't think he will, but for her character, it wouldn't have made sense for her to be like, no, actually, I'm going to kill you because you're going to become this person no matter what. It just would fly in the face of, everything she said the episode before. But specifically with Victor Timely, I think it's interesting. I've seen a lot of people online make the comparison of like, oh, it's like going back in time. Like, would you kill Hitler? But I think that's like obviously an extremely like oversimplification, because Victor, like he's the way that analogy would work is if Hitler then also built a time machine right before he died and sent someone back to early Germany when he was born, and then gave him a copy of Mein Kampf and was like, here, take this, and that shaped the rest of his life. So given what we know about the time loop and also about He Who Remains specifically curating the sacred timeline where he is the only victor and there is no multiversal war, I think what we're seeing is the beginning of the loop that we saw at the end of last season. I think Victor Timely becomes He Who Remains. I don't think he becomes the Conqueror or Immortus or any of the other Kangs, but I also think that He Who Remains exists because of He Who Remains. It's creating like this feedback loop. Like I think that's the question that this season is going to answer, is how we're going to get more to how the start of Kang, where he came from. Because I just don't buy that like all Kang variants come from this one. That doesn't make sense to me. I think what makes more sense, and a plot that is played out in the comics, is that Kang sent a younger version of himself into the past so that he could then be there in the past with the tools of the future to help build himself a future towards the future that he's already in now. My head hurts when I talk about this stuff. But
no, agreed. It's definitely sort of like, I don't know, the Inception level. You keep going down so many layers, and when you peel each one back, you're like, yeah, well, at some point, is this a bad Kang? Or is this a guy named Victor Timely who, yes, is has the potential to somehow become that, but he's read the TVA and he's like, oh yeah, no, I don't want to do any of that. I guess we'll see as he goes in. And just to my earlier point, Cami Egan said, I was looking forward to seeing Jonathan Majors again, and he knocked it out of the park. His personal issues didn't come to mind while I was watching it, and that's really why I asked that question. I was wondering if anybody thought about it. And somebody in the chat, and I don't know if it was just a theory, but they felt like Victor Timely, and again, I don't know if we have a very active chat today, so I appreciate that. But somebody had said that he has sort of like I guess the hair was sort of like a Frederick Douglass sort of look at it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's very clearly sort of the inspiration for that look. And obviously because of the era that he's in, he looks so different than, any of the other variants, the other versions that we've seen of him. So I think it, sort of the mission of the episode where we're having Mobius and Loki, I thought OB has really become hey, I just want to remind everybody, we're all going to die. Remember? Okay, but what about this? Yeah, but we're all going to die. All right, I guess we should do something about that, shouldn't we? Well, do you want to have more pie? No, we should really do something about it. And
we Christian, we could make a drinking game out of how many times they said the word loom.
Oh, yeah.
At some point, I'm like, all right, I get it. It's about the loom. Can we
by the way, please. As we have a moment, Eric, how many of your 6 chicken McNuggets have you had at this point, by the way?
You haven't had any?
No, I've been talking. I've been listening.
Okay, that says they're all gone.
Sound.
Yeah.
The way
you hated that sound of the sound of opening. I know.
No,
it's the color.
What?
It looks like sweet and sour sauce.
It is.
Yeah, it should be green.
Like Loki. I agree. It should be green.
That's Miss Minutes orange.
I don't want to think about how cold those chicken nuggets are now.
I reheated them after.
Are they good enough that you go back in time?
That's a great point. That's a great point, Nate. I did reheat them right before the show. And I'm sorry, what'd you say, David?
Thank God.
I asked Connor if they're good enough that you'd go back in time and eat them again and start a chicken nuggets loop.
I don't have to. I got more.
Oh, nice.
What does it taste like, that sauce?
Honestly, it just tastes like sweet and sour sauce. Like you would get it.
Although not much in the way of sweet or sour.
God,
it's more
marketing is just so efficient.
Wait a minute, it's like Loki though. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's bad.
So Eric, I need to ask, how much did you spend on eBay to get how many sauces did you get? Because you gave me 4, you gave me 5. I don't know, you gave me 4 or 5. How much did you spend on them?
Yeah, it's like a buck and change per sauce, but I think that was worth it. And all
I hope there's no injected poison.
I mean, I almost
it'll be better for the show
our next 5 hours to see if we survive to see 6 p.m. Yeah, that's the real question.
Wow. But if Connor freezes from the poison, we won't know if it's the bad Wi-Fi again or the poison.
Well, I'm not in Atlanta.
He's back in Bourbon. Well, he was able to drive by my house, so he's
hey, Christian, you mentioned OB, right? He was featured last night a little bit in when they opened the book. It reminds us. He wrote the TVA manual. And so He Who Remains didn't write it, which makes me believe that OB is more than he appears to be, much like Miss Minutes. He may have created the TVA. He may have created He Who Remains. There's more to what's going on because He Who Remains is reading what OB wrote and learning from OB.
Sorry, David, I didn't mean to jump into that.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, but we were talking, I think last time, I don't know. I was sort of, I was like Loki in episode 1. I was in, I was out. But, I think the casting too, like getting a recent Oscar winner to play this role makes you think that, there's probably something interesting about him in those last few episodes. Because otherwise, it is a variation of what we've seen this actor play before. So I agree, David. It feels like there's something there that they're waiting to pop the cork on.
His fun, silly, absent-minded, very affable. Like, I like everybody. I think that there could definitely be a big reveal.
What if he created the loom problem and is telling people only he who remains can fix it because he wants him brought back there, and that's his scam.
That's true.
So
well, what if there is no problem with the loom?
That's what I'm saying. What if he's made this up, right? And he just wants Victor Timely brought to the TVA because that's what happened the last time, because he knows the loop.
Yeah, well, I think that that's a great character, even though this was not an OB heavy episode. Michael, do you feel like that could be a reveal that OB, the character, hates this show as much as you do, so he wants to kill everyone in it, and then it'll be the OB show next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good possibility we don't really understand him at all. I think it seems like everyone kind of depends on him, but he doesn't really have friends. It seems kind of like he's like a tool, not like a person, and that might get to someone who's constantly eating their tail.
Yeah, I mean, I think that initially I thought he was going to be like Milton from Office Space with the red stapler. He's going to be like sort of that kind of a foil, but I think that I think he has it all figured out. He always knows who everybody is when they come in. He just sort of plays it off like, oh yeah, I forget, But I think that there's a lot to be said. What are your thoughts on that, Eric? Sort of OB, could there be a big reveal? And I said last week I would make this point. We're now halfway through the season. We've had 3 episodes. So what do you think we might get from OB in the second half, especially the fact that next episode can start with, well, you wanted He Who Remains, or a version of him, back here at the TVA, and now you're getting them.
I think it's also, I just hope it goes there, because I love the actor, love the energy he brings. Those scenes are starting to get really redundant. So I'm just hoping there is something else to him. And Dave, I think your theory is very smart. Like, create a fake problem to bring in a solution, which is actually going to create the biggest problem of all. That makes sense. It actually tracks dramatically, like the choices made. Why he would have himself in a basement for, I don't know, millennia. That part would be, I'd be interested to see the explanation behind that. But beyond that, it does feel like the shtick's going to get very old soon if they don't change it up in some capacity. As funny as it is, as great as he is, it needs something in these back 3 episodes, or else, I think OB's gonna wear it as well quick.
Well, our friend in the chat, Ivan Soto, seems insistent that OB is an evil, and that could be a feeling. But what are your thoughts on all of this, Nate? I think that my response to Ivan is that we don't know that for sure, and that's kind of why we're asking the question. Is he or isn't he? What are your thoughts on OB, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, last week I was talking about how I felt like he has to be more important than just like a sticky comedic relief. I remember that guy from the movie and Indiana Jones. Specifically, his name being Ouroboros has to have very significant impact. But right now, my tinfoil hat theory, especially after this last episode, is that Ouroboros, OB, is actually like an AI, like a sentient AI, like Miss Minutes, who received a body. And his whole purpose is to maintain the loop of He Who Remains. Of like that's why his name is Ouroboros. Is he's there handling technology, keeping the loom intact, so that the cycle keeps continuing to happen over and over and over again. Especially with, like, Miss Minutes did not say that you couldn't figure out how to make me a body. She just said you never would make me a body. So I think that might be significant, in that in the future he absolutely had the ability to do that, but because of how vital Miss Minutes was to him, the time spent, how she knows all of his secrets. He's like, I'm not gonna let you, be sentient in a physical body and do whatever you want. Like, that's just not gonna happen. We know he doesn't like
partner well.
Exactly. But OB wouldn't be more of a partner as much as a tool within the establishment that is the TVA itself, that kind of helps to perpetuate that circular motion. So I expect that we will get a lot of him next episode. I am very excited to see the interaction between him and Victor Timely. I think that will be very telling of how he responds to that. Because correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like OB is the only one at the TVA who hasn't regularly had his memory wiped. Because he remembers Mobius when Mobius comes down there, but Mobius is like, I have no idea who you are. So I think that he might go, oh, it's the boss man, and everyone's going to be like, what? And then chaos will ensue.
Yeah, I mean, that was the scene in the first episode of this season where Mobius is trying to kind of play it off like, oh yeah, I remember that what happened, and he clearly doesn't remember any of it. And so I think that early on in episode 4, we're going to get the feel for how well OB remembers him, and we'll also find out what Miss Minutes' secret is about Renslayer. This was a little bit earlier in the chat. Craig Robinson thought it was interesting that Loki outed Victor Timely as a con artist. Was it all a lie because the book told him everything to do? When you get into sort of circular time travel logic like that, it it can definitely give you a headache as you start to try to figure it all out and think about what's going on. And Farad Muhammad had a comment, and I decided I will share it. If this was just a few months prior, I'm sure Lizzo would have been the Kang variant, but she's making some bad headlines herself. So we're Team Monique here. Farad Muhammad, don't come into our show and try and take down Monique. All right, I love this idea. I want this idea, and I'm gonna say, and Kame, let's not forget our friend Brad. Maybe Brad can open the temporal room. Yeah, I think Brad can do pretty much everything, So
just can't open the box.
Yeah, I mean everything else. Anyway, I love seeing everybody in the chat, and I found, look, my wife and I, we watched this show together after the kids go to bed. So even though it's about 9:30 p.m. Pacific time, it even when we're enjoying it, sometimes we fall asleep during anything. And this was one of those episodes. Last week, she fell asleep in the middle. I was like, it's all right. You'll get it in the recap. This one, I was just like, you're going to have to watch the second half of the show again, because there was so much that actually started happening, really moving the story along because they know they're halfway through the season, and doing a good job in helping me forget about Secret Invasion. Honestly, having a story that I care about, characters that I'm interested in. I'm not speaking for you, Michael. I'm just saying for me personally, characters that I care about, a story that I want to see where it's going. And this is very consequential because this, Kang is going to be a future threat. Nothing that we've gotten revealed on any of the Marvel Studios release schedule, but we know it's all coming. So I'm very interested in seeing and where it plays out. And I want each of you to kind of share your thoughts as to, where we might go next week and where that might bring us through the season. And any thoughts that you have. Michael, I feel like I'm going best for last, so I'm going to start with Nate and we'll go counterclockwise. So
Nate's
Nate,
the worst for last?
No, that's not okay. You know what, David, you're right. That's no.
Eric should go first.
It's a 3-way tie amongst the rest of you. And Michael is the best, and I don't get a vote. Ghost 8386, I love you. I'm so glad you're a fan of me. And even when you've gotten mad at some of my other co-hosts, Ghost 8386, I like you so much that I'm not even going to comment on your comment that's on the screen. I enjoyed Secret Invasion. We'll just move on from that. Ghost 8386, I'm always a fan. Also a fan of Nate Miller, who David pointed out that I set you up improperly. Also one of the best is Nate. Where do you think this is going to go? is there anything, sort of, you're talking about your tinfoil hat theory. Is there any like, oh, it'd be really cool if they did this, but it's never going to happen? Is there any thoughts you have like that, Nate?
I mean, I'm really enjoying the pace so far. So I'm hoping that next week we get a big exposition dump, either like from Ouroboros about the TVA or something more specifically about like Kang. I'm assuming that we will get something about Ravonna and her interactions with Kang coming from Miss Minutes. I really want more kind of understanding on the sacred timeline and them specifically pointing out to us that the sacred timeline before had Victor Timely in it, but it wasn't until he got the TVA book that it branched off to the branch timeline that they're on now. So I think more clarification on that would be great. But I really want more exposition dump in this next episode so that the following 2 episodes after that can be more of like action and doing things. I want more Loki doing magic and stuff.
No, I agree with that. And I don't know. I mean, my gut would tell me that there would not be plans for a Loki season 3, but I guess we'll see. I feel like this series is going to end setting up whatever our next Kang related movie appearance is. And I'm going to ask you the same question, David, but let me bring in this comment from Daniel Drew. He Who Remains is kind of the most good version of Kang. And I think that that's consistent with the way he was portrayed in season 1. In the comics, Immortus is kind of that neutral version of Kang. And there may be other Kang. There are other Kangs. Somebody in the chat mentioned Iron Lad. There's a few other characters. I think the Druid is one of them. So there's definitely variations in where this can go. So maybe this is going to be sort of a reveal of maybe this isn't a Kang. This is a Mortis, or somebody else. So I guess we will see. But David, your thoughts on where you think we're going next week and where the show might take us throughout the end of the season in episode 6.
Okay. Well, I think to answer what was just said, I think he's He Who Remains because He Who Remains put Ravonna up to creating He Who Remains because he's He Who Remains. He wants to, he's creating himself. What I'd like to see is explain to me who put the book in his hands the first time. Was it OB's idea to put the book in his hands? Was it as what Nate said? Because in the comics, Kang is from the future and he's a descendant of Reed Richards, right? And when He Who Remains showed the multiversal war, he showed scientists, right, an animation, a claymation, and they figured out the multiverse. Victor Timely didn't figure out the multiverse yet, right? I feel like Kang is a future character. All his tech is from the future, and I do agree they put a kid in the past for the reason Nate said, based on the comics, and maybe OB gave him the book. Maybe He Who Remains knew to give him the book, but I don't believe that he was born naturally in that time period. So I want to know how that started. How did the loop start? But also, the episode ended on a cliffhanger that we haven't mentioned yet. Miss Minutes said to Ravonna, I know something about you, but it's going to make you very angry. So is she a variant in this world, in the MCU? I know who she is in the comics, but I don't know what's going to make her angry. That she was married to Kang at some point, or that she's a variant and she had her mind wiped and she's...
Or is she a variant of Kang? I mean, Sylvie is a variant of Loki, so...
Right, or is she a variant of Ravonna, or she's nobody, and she's not Ravonna, and she didn't... maybe they implanted the memories that she worked with He Who Remains, and she's nobody. But I'm very curious to see that reveal as to what's going to make her angry.
Yeah, no, and I think that will be the sort of that reveal, and seeing what happens when Victor Timely walks in to the TVA will be interesting. And I'm going to ask you the same question, Eric, but this important thought from Kemi Egan first. I thought Sylvie was in the episode just to be there, but what did her manager say when she left work early? I think that's a really important question. But question. Judging from the manager when we've seen him, I think she gets to take as many breaks
He's
as
like
she wants.
12.
Yeah. She doesn't have to punch out her time card. Like, she's on the clock this whole time when she's deciding whether or not to kill Victor Timely.
She can time travel, so she could just go right back to when she left.
That's
a
what
great
I was
point.
thinking.
Hey, Christian,
Yeah.
am I allowed to plug a different podcaster that had a theory on the McDonald's manager?
You
Or should I just tell you the theory?
You could say no, because then
Was it
it'll
a
look like you're trying to pass it off.
No, I wouldn't
for
say it is
yourself.
my theory.
Was
so
it? Well, let's
Ryan
put it this
Airy-
way. Depending on what the answer is to this question, was it John Melendez?
No.
Then yes, you can say whatever you want.
Okay. If I remember correctly, oh God, it was either New Rock Stars or Screen Crush. I apologize. But one of them had a theory, and they laid out a lot of evidence that the manager in the McDonald's is Mobius. That he's from the same part of the
version of Mobius.
younger version of him.
like
How
that.
whenever they're in the scene together, they're both on the left side of the screen. He turns his back when Mobius walks into McDonald's, that he doesn't see his face. Like they gave like 11 reasons why that's probably him as a kid. And I found that fascinating, and how he loves pie, how much he loved the food when he got to the McDonald's. And it made sense that kid.
Wow.
And so what he said was, because they did this in, was it Indiana Jones, when was it Joaquin Phoenix who played him as a kid? Or River Phoenix, one of the
River
Phoenixes.
Phoenix, yeah.
And he had to whip himself to put the scar on himself to match Harrison Ford's. Well, what's his name? Mobius's nose is broken.
Sure is.
And so if they show this kid breaking his nose at some point in the series, because he's been in a bunch of episodes for just a kid in the background, then you'll know it's Mobius as a kid.
I love stuff like this, but a lot of times it's
right?
like, an article like this will pop up, like, I don't know, on your like memories on social media a year from now, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that was fun, but boy, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just want to make the point. I think everybody likes the pie from McDonald's. I mean,
Most importantly, do they have a place to ride jet skis there?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Eric, Connor, where do you think we're going next week and throughout the rest of the season?
I think this idea that Timely is going to potentially, get turned into a Kang, He Who Remains, whatever it may be. The recent Flash movie, which I know Christian and I liked.
I like it.
Okay, so 3 of 5.
Something you liked?
Yeah, I liked it.
You would like that movie.
I know, because everyone else hates it. I love it.
No, I didn't hate it, but I don't want to veer off and talk Flash right now.
But the point I was getting to is the idea of what turns Flash potentially into a reverse Flash, like how time takes like a idyllic character and is able to make them evil. And I think that kind of stuff could be really interesting, because there is a sense, unless again it's a put on, that Timely is kind of pure, even if he is a flim flam man, even if he's lying through his teeth about a lot of his inventions. The truth is, like, he has a vision for something greater. And watching that guy get corrupted by the forces around him, be it OB or Miss Minutes, whoever it is, I think that could be really interesting and dramatic. And as we know, Jonathan Majors as an actor can pull that off. When you watch him in this, sorry to circle back, but when you had asked before about how do you feel knowing, he's currently on trial, I think if he was a lesser actor, Disney would have already let him go. I think they have such high hopes on him and have seen how good he can be that they're like letting it ride. Because let's be honest, and it's an unfortunate truth, a lot of actors have immediately gotten canceled. Sometimes
Howard.
Well, sometimes when the truth hasn't necessarily come out yet. So, and this is not about being anti or pro or anything. It's just sometimes like actors have sort of gotten the brunt of, no burden of proof. They just immediately were let go. And so it is interesting seeing Disney's really trying to let the justice system do its thing. And I think it's just because they know they needed an actor like this to really kind of get Marvel back on track.
And to circle back to Terrence Howard, obviously everyone was afraid that he understood math better than the rest of the world. I've heard that clip. Obviously, he is a singular intellect that the rest of us can't measure up to, and I think it had more to do with that. And I know how you feel about Don Cheadle, Michael. But Michael, Other than the fact that maybe you hope that each of the next 3 episodes is, under 12 minutes.
26.
More hair flips.
Where do you think it's going? I mean, look, this show is going to serve the bigger picture of the MCU.
Right.
It's going to set up some Kang stuff that's coming. So, where do you think is going to happen? And if you want to throw in, I hope Loki gets, sucked out into space through that airlock from the first episode, and then, it's really just other characters, and then they all die one by one. Any thoughts that you have, please share them.
Yeah. I think that Sylvie will be pruned from the timeline. I think we won't see her anymore after this show.
You could definitely be right. Absolutely. That's a good point.
I think that will maybe solidify Loki as like his belief system or whatever, choosing to be good or bad or whatever may happen. I assume he wouldn't go back to being a bad boy, but I don't know. You never know with this. I kind of got these vibes that maybe Renslayer is Kang's daughter because she's kind of like attracted to him, but Miss Minutes is like, no, you're not gonna like this. I don't know. I like that theory David mentioned about Mobius being McDonald's manager. I really don't have a lot for where this is going. Just little things.
Right. Well, no, I think that can be the interesting thing. And sort of asking the question about Victor Timely, who he is and all that. Daniel Drew does remind us from season 1. In fact, I believe saw this in one of the recaps. He who remains does say to Sylvie, I'll see you soon. So he could very well know, like, oh yeah, you're going to show up to Victor Timely and not kill me or, something like that. So, I think it all lends to the question of where's it going? What are we going to get? It's not as good as the question of what does this McDonald's pumpkin pie taste like, but I'm going to answer that in a moment. Eric, did you already have a McDonald's pumpkin pie, or was this just for me?
That might have happened. I neither confirm nor deny.
I didn't see one in your car, so was it?
It had already been eaten.
Yeah.
No. I gave it a home a little bit later.
A home.
A home. It's loved. It's feeling love right now. My stomach, on the other hand, is not feeling love.
Uh-oh.
It's hate.
Yeah, we
regret.
we took the kids to McDonald's last night. Let's just say there's someone in my house who was like, "Oh, this was a mistake." It wasn't me. That's all I'm going to say. But I mean, obviously, here I am about to eat an apple pie that looks like a 7-Eleven burrito. Well,
it does, yeah.
Oh, it's delightful. It's just like the apple pie except pumpkin. Anyway, probably not one I should have taken them by. So we'll be back next week. Important. I got a couple programming notes. The first is I put this episode. This show's always on Geekscape now. But what I found when we were doing, actually, David was there. We were doing our Ahsoka show. Was that there were people that didn't know, even though I tried to make the big push, make sure everybody knew that Marvel Movie Talk had moved over to Geekscape. So I put it on the Blackcast channel for this episode, just to remind everybody that it's there. But if you want to keep watching this show, you can even see the little scroll at the bottom of the screen. You have to subscribe at Geekscape TV. Go over to that channel. A lot of you are watching it there right now. Go ahead, subscribe. You'll get this show. You'll get a bunch of other great shows. Some of which include me, including Geekscape Book Club, which we'll promote next week. But if you want to keep watching the show, you need to subscribe to Geekscape. I'm so glad that people were able to find it. And we're doing, we will be back next Friday at the same time, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, to talk about Loki episode 4. But we're also doing one of our bonus shows in our old time slot, which will probably become our new time slot again, Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do an X-Men themed show. And if ever there's an excuse for me to talk about the work of Chris Claremont, I will always do it. And I'm having on the author, Andrew DeMond, who is actually a professor in Canada who got a grant to study the 16 years of X-Men that Chris Claremont wrote and analyze it. There was a team of researchers, and that research, I've been following his Twitter account for years, but he's finally collected it in this book that is called The Claremont Run, Subverting Gender in the X-Men. It's about an era where it was sort of a joke around Marvel that Chris Claremont was always like with characters like, well, why can't it be a woman? And that was kind of funny to everyone. So strong female characters that we all love in the X-Men. Obviously there were stronger characters, but Jean Grey is a perfect example. Michael, there's, I'm sure you've seen Jean Grey pre-1975, and it's really just thought bubbles of everyone else on the team, including Professor X, which is super creepy. Everybody's in love with Jean Grey, and she's very passive, and then she turns into like the most powerful being in the galaxy. Girl even needs a whole planet. I mean, come on,
And then they retconned it then, and then she didn't eat the planet.
Well, there's my continuity, which ends before.
Yes, I believe in X-Men 137. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's my sacred timeline.
Yes, the retcon, the X-Men 1 retcon was terrible. The whole cocoon thing, awful. She'll always be Phoenix. I'm with you.
I've talked to Chris Claremont about that. And,
no,
it still rubs him the wrong way.
It should. He created a masterpiece.
He's not too happy about it, but he also, also some of his dialogue was inserted into the Fantastic Four issue that John Byrne wrote, which led to John Byrne quitting the Fantastic Four. So really, it's fascinating comic book drama, and this is a very interesting book. It makes me feel smart reading it because it's it's like an educational publication. I forget the University of Texas Press put this out. So we'll be talking about it. You don't have to read the book, but I encourage at least following at the Claremont Run on Twitter, X, if you will. And we'll have a fun conversation with Andrew, but then we'll be back on Friday. But both of those episodes you'll find on Geekscape. So that's the important thing there. Very excited about that. But for everyone else, Nate, where can people find you and see if you have any other tinfoil theories that you might want to share with them?
You can find me at Dog Like Nate on Twitter, Instagram, and most social medias. But do not come to me with any time travel questions because I've already filled my allotment of thinking about time travel for the next 3 months.
No, but my point on time travel, it's always the lesson I think that we all learned in Endgame is that Back to the Future is bullshit. David Brody, where, as I always like to ask you, if somebody's like, boy, if only I could get some Brooklyn Boys take on what's going on in the world, if only there was a place I could hear that, where would they be able to find that, David?
Oh, you would search The Brooklyn Boys on all platforms where you get your podcasts. Today's episode that we just released, I think it's 273. We debated the relative realness of haunted houses in Savannah, Georgia. My co-host believed the $100 he spent was well spent, and I quite the contrary, disagreed with him. So
he spent $100 on what he believed was an actual haunted house.
He spent $200 because he paid for his girlfriend as well.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
So I rip him the way a true Brooklyn boy would. And also you can find me in front of my television set this week trying to figure out what Michael Shirley will like Loki episode 4.
Yes, right, exactly. I think we'll all be trying to figure that out. Eric Connor, where do we find you? Other than at the McDonald's at Olive and Verdugo in Burbank.
And lurking around the corners of eBay for more Loki-themed sauce. I'm regretting this choice now, I have to admit. But it was worth it. We'll see how I do tomorrow. But yes, I am. You can catch up with David Brody's least favorite member of Marvel Movie Talk at Count Eric Connor over on Facebook and Instagram.
And Michael Shirley, America's sweetheart. Where do we go for you to bring a ray of sunshine into our lives?
Oh, my Instagram stories are pretty good, and I hate Michael Shirley. Also, you can find me on Twitter, X at Michael X Shirley. Thank you, crew.
And always, I am at Christian DMZ on Twitter /X/Instagram. Yep. Threads still there. I keep getting notices that new people are following me on Threads, and I'm like, okay, enjoy. Just don't be looking for that content, but thanks for following me on Threads. And on my personal podcast, the Blattcast, I did a fun episode yesterday, which you can find on the YouTube channel over there. It was with a gentleman known as Carlos Danger in the Dabbleverse, which if you Google that name, you know why it's a great nom de plume, as it were. In the interest of Halloween, we analyzed Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No, not the 1974 Tobe Hooper classic. The 2022 Netflix version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre that was about influencers or celebrity chefs or some shit. I watched it and I still don't know. So we talk about that, Carlos and I. We have a fun chat, so you can find that there. But please, you'll see us back here next Friday, but then also make sure you join us next Wednesday at our special time for our Claremont Run conversation. And of course, who are these broadcasters on the Who Are These Podcasts network? That this week it'll be Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, trying to back away from some of the heat of shows streaming in our usual time slot. So we'll see how that goes. But again, just follow me at Christian DMZ. You'll find out everything that you need to know. Cam Egan, can't wait for my interview with Jeff Keith, the lead singer of Tesla. I knew I liked you. Yeah, I recorded that the other day, and that's going to stream next week. Thank you, Cam Egan, for helping me promote yet another thing. That's all the time we have for now, but as great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!